Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, and thank you for joining us for a journey into the depths of a subject rarely explored with full honesty and clarity. Today, we uncover a truth that has long been buried beneath headlines, political spin, and geopolitical tension. Why does the United States fear Iran more than any other nation? This isn't just about politics. It's about power, ideology, control, and the unseen chessboard of global influence. Iran is not merely another nation in the Middle East. It is a nation that challenges the very structure of Western dominance. A nation that has dared to stand independently. A nation whose voice echoes across the Islamic world, inspiring resistance, and whose actions ripple far beyond its borders. Behind the sanctions, the threats, and the nuclear negotiations lies a deeper narrative, a story of resistance against imperialism, of strategic leverage over energy corridors, of ideological warfare, and of a regional awakening. So today, we go beyond the surface. We dive into the hidden truths, the uncomfortable realities that are seldom told. Get ready to see a different perspective, a perspective that may just change the way you view modern global power struggles. Let us begin. Iran's location on the world map is not just significant, it is strategic in a way that makes global powers uneasy, particularly the United States. Nestled between the Persian Gulf and the Caspian Sea, Iran sits at the very crossroads of East and West, connecting the energy-rich Gulf states with Central Asia and beyond. But what truly elevates Iran's geopolitical significance is its control over one of the world's most critical maritime chokepoints, the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow stretch of water that connects the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea and the open ocean. It is, in many ways, the lifeline of the global oil supply chain. Almost 20% of the world's oil, amounting to over 20 million barrels per day, passes through this channel. This includes oil exports from Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Iraq, and, of course, Iran itself. If Iran were to disrupt or close the strait, even temporarily, it would send shockwaves through global energy markets, spiking oil prices and destabilizing economies, especially those in the West that rely heavily on energy imports. This leverage, this quiet power, does not sit comfortably with the United States. In the world of geopolitics, control over resources means control over influence. The U.S. has long sought to ensure that the flow of oil remains uninterrupted, not just for its own economy, but to maintain its dominance in shaping global trade and currency systems. Iran, however, presents a unique challenge. Unlike many other regional players, Iran is not a client state of the West. It is not bound by U.S. military bases or Western political alliances. Instead, Iran asserts its sovereignty and openly resists Western military presence in the region, particularly in the Persian Gulf. What makes the situation more complex is Iran's military capabilities in the region. Over the past few decades, Iran has built up a formidable arsenal of naval weapons, ballistic missiles, and drones specifically designed to operate in and around the Strait of Hormuz. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Irq Navy has developed asymmetric warfare tactics, including fast attack boats, sea mines, and anti-ship missiles that can harass or disable much larger vessels. This has created a scenario where, even without traditional naval supremacy, Iran can threaten or disrupt shipping routes with a relatively low cost. The mere possibility of such a disruption is enough to make markets jittery and to compel the U.S. to maintain a constant naval presence in the Gulf. This, in itself, is a costly and exhausting endeavor, both militarily and economically. The United States knows that if conflict were ever to erupt, even a temporary blockage of the strait could wreak havoc on global supply chains and energy prices, drawing not just regional actors but world powers into chaos. In this way, Iran holds a quiet but profound power, one that doesn't require occupation, invasion, or even confrontation. It is a power rooted in geography, sharpened by strategy, and amplified by resistance. And it is this very power that fuels one of the deepest, most enduring fears in the halls of American strategy. Iran's influence in the Middle East stretches far beyond its borders, not through conventional warfare, but through a vast and calculated network of proxy alliances. These groups, often referred to collectively as the Axis of Resistance, serve as Iran's extended arm in the region, allowing it to project power, resist Western influence, and destabilize rival interests without engaging in direct state-to-state conflict. This network includes powerful actors such as Hezbollah in Lebanon, various Shia militias in Iraq, the Houthis in Yemen, and aligned forces in Syria, each serving a strategic purpose in Iran's broader regional vision. Hezbollah stands as one of the most formidable non-state military forces in the world. Based in Lebanon and funded, trained, and equipped by Iran, Hezbollah has become a key player in both Lebanese politics and regional conflict. It possesses a vast arsenal of rockets and missiles capable of reaching deep into Israel, and its battlefield experience, gained through years of conflict, particularly in Syria, makes it a highly trained and motivated force. For Iran, Hezbollah is not just a defense mechanism against Israeli aggression, but a forward operating partner that keeps Israel in constant strategic check. In Iraq, Iran has cultivated deep ties with various Shia militias and political factions, many of which were instrumental in fighting ISIS. Groups such as Kataib Hezbollah and the Badr Organization have grown into powerful military and political entities with deep influence in Baghdad. These groups serve Iran's interests by undermining U.S. presence and policy in Iraq, while ensuring that any Iraqi government must account for Tehran's strategic priorities. Their actions are coordinated through the Quds Force, the external operations wing of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which acts as the linchpin of Iran's proxy strategy. Syria presents another front where Iran's proxies have reshaped the battlefield by supporting Bashar al-Assad's regime with fighters, weapons, and advisors. Iran has helped stabilize a critical ally and secure a corridor of influence stretching from Tehran to Beirut. This land bridge not only strengthens Iran's access to Lebanon and the Mediterranean, but also serves as a supply route for weapons destined for Hezbollah. In Yemen, the Houthis, a Zaydi Shia movement, have received ideological and material support from Iran. Their ongoing conflict with the Saudi-led coalition serves Iran's interest in bleeding Saudi resources and projecting influence on the Arabian Peninsula. While Iran's involvement in Yemen is more indirect, the Houthis' ability to strike Saudi oil facilities and shipping lanes amplifies Iran's regional leverage. This entire strategy, proxies instead of armies, indirect pressure instead of open war, has allowed Iran to become a regional superpower without matching the military budgets or capabilities of the United States or Israel. It frustrates traditional military planning, creates complex battlegrounds, and denies the U.S. the clean victories it has sought in the Middle East. Every action by a proxy offers Tehran plausible deniability, making retaliation diplomatically and militarily complicated. In this shadow war, Iran has mastered the art of asymmetric power, and it is this mastery that continues to haunt Western policymakers and military strategists alike. Iran's nuclear ambitions lie at the heart of one of the most tense and enduring conflicts in modern geopolitics. While Iranian officials repeatedly assert that their nuclear program is solely for peaceful purposes, focused on energy production and medical research, many in the West, particularly the United States and Israel, view the program with deep suspicion. They see uranium enrichment and ballistic missile development not as isolated scientific pursuits, but as critical steps toward building a nuclear arsenal. The fear is not just about the bomb itself, it's about the seismic shift in power dynamics that a nuclear-armed Iran would bring to the region. From the perspective of the U.S. and Israel, a nuclear Iran represents a threat not only in military terms, but as a challenge to their long-standing strategic dominance in the Middle East. Israel is currently the only nuclear power in the region, a status that grants it unmatched deterrence and influence. The U.S., as Israel's staunchest ally and military partner, has built its entire Middle Eastern foreign policy around maintaining this balance. If Iran were to acquire nuclear weapons, it would not only neutralize Israel's strategic edge, but also deter any military action against Tehran, effectively redrawing the lines of power in the region. For Washington, the concern is layered. First, a nuclear Iran could spark a regional arms race. If Tehran goes nuclear, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt may all feel compelled to pursue their own nuclear programs, destabilizing an already volatile region. Second, it would embolden Iran's proxy networks, groups like Hezbollah, the Houthis, and militias in Iraq, who could operate under the protection of a nuclear umbrella, escalating conflicts while Iran itself remains insulated from direct retaliation. Third, Iran's nuclear capability could undermine the U.S.'s ability to influence or control the behavior of allied states in the region, as they may pivot toward Tehran in recognition of its newfound deterrent power. What makes the situation even more precarious is Iran's technical progress. Despite economic sanctions, assassinations of key scientists, and cyber attacks like Stuxnet, Iran has steadily advanced its uranium enrichment capabilities. The collapse of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action JCPOA, a nuclear deal signed in 2015 but later abandoned by the U.S., only accelerated Iran's efforts. Enrichment levels have climbed, stockpiles have grown, and international inspections have become increasingly limited. Israel, for its part, views a nuclear Iran as an existential threat. Iranian leaders have repeatedly denounced the Israeli state, and although Iran has not directly attacked Israel with conventional forces, its support for Hezbollah and other anti-Israel movements amplifies Tel Aviv's fears. A nuclear weapon in Iran's hands could, in Israel's eyes, create the potential for unthinkable destruction. As a result, Israel has consistently pushed for preemptive measures, covert sabotage, intelligence operations, and the threat of unilateral military strikes. The danger, therefore, lies not just in whether Iran builds the bomb, but in what it represents, the end of uncontested Western, Israeli dominance in the region. It is the ultimate equalizer, one that could shift alliances, embolden adversaries, and permanently alter the strategic map of the Middle East. That possibility alone keeps Washington and Tel Aviv in a state of constant vigilance. Iran's Islamic Revolution in 1979 was not merely a political upheaval, it was a seismic ideological shift that sent shockwaves across the Muslim world and beyond. It overthrew a pro-Western monarchy and replaced it with a theocratic regime rooted in Shia Islamic principles and fierce anti-imperialism. From that moment, Iran positioned itself not just as a sovereign nation, but as a revolutionary state with a mission to challenge the global dominance of Western powers, especially the United States, and to offer an alternative model of governance grounded in Islamic values and resistance to foreign control. This mission has endured, making Iran not just a geopolitical adversary, but a profound ideological rival. Unlike many countries that seek to align with the West for economic or security reasons, Iran has consistently rejected the core tenets of Western hegemony, liberal democracy, free market capitalism, and secular governance. Its leadership views the West, particularly the U.S., as a corrupting force that imposes its will through economic coercion, military intervention, and cultural domination. Iranian leaders often describe the United States as the Great Satan, a symbol of moral decay and imperial aggression. This rhetoric is not mere propaganda. It reflects a deeply held world view in which Western powers are seen as illegitimate rulers of the global order. This ideological resistance has had a ripple effect. Iran's revolutionary narrative has resonated with disenfranchised Muslim populations across the Middle East and North Africa who feel betrayed by their own Western-backed governments. By positioning itself as the vanguard of Islamic resistance, Iran has inspired movements and militias that seek to resist Western influence, challenge corrupt elites, and reclaim cultural and religious identity. Groups such as Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen do not merely act as military proxies, they also carry the ideological imprint of Iran's revolutionary mission. This exportation of revolution, whether through education, media, or militant training, poses a unique challenge to the West. The threat is not confined to traditional battlegrounds or state actors. It's an ideological insurgency that spreads through sermons, speeches, satellite broadcasts, and grassroots activism. Iran's ability to frame the global struggle in moral and religious terms, between the oppressed and the oppressors, between the faithful and the corrupt, gives its message enduring power, especially in regions plagued by poverty, occupation, or authoritarianism. For the U.S. and its allies, this is a deeply unsettling prospect. It's one thing to confront a rival nation on a battlefield. It's another to confront a belief system that cannot be bombed, sanctioned, or negotiated away. Iran's revolution turned the nation into a symbol of defiance, and symbols can be more dangerous than soldiers. They inspire, they mobilize, and they outlast regimes. It is this ideological opposition, unwavering, confrontational, and evangelistic, that makes Iran such a persistent thorn in the side of Western policymakers. The fear is not just that Iran will grow stronger, but that others may follow its example, that a new generation of Muslims might look to Tehran not as an enemy, but as a model. In that sense, Iran's greatest weapon may not be a missile or a militia, but an idea. Iran's defiance of Western economic control is one of the most remarkable aspects of its modern history. In a world where most oil-rich nations have either aligned themselves with Western powers or become dependent on their financial and political systems, Iran stands out as a unique case of resistance. Since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, the country has pursued a path of self-reliance and sovereignty, refusing to bow to Western demands or submit to the economic models pushed by institutions like the IMF and World Bank. This defiance has come at a high cost, but it has also made Iran a symbol of resilience and independence in the eyes of many nations and movements across the global South. The United States and its allies have employed extensive economic warfare against Iran for decades. Sanctions have targeted nearly every sector of its economy, from oil exports and banking to aviation and shipping. These measures were intended to isolate Iran, cripple its economy, and force political compliance, especially regarding its nuclear program and regional activities. Yet, despite these efforts, Iran has not only survived but adapted. Rather than collapsing under pressure, it has developed parallel systems to keep its economy afloat and maintain state functionality. Iran has invested heavily in domestic industries, particularly in defense, energy, and technology. Its military capabilities, including missile development, drone technology, and cyber warfare, have grown without reliance on Western imports. In the energy sector, Iran has continued to extract and refine oil, develop petrochemicals, and even export crude to countries willing to defy U.S. sanctions such as China. It has built a domestic car industry, expanded agricultural self-sufficiency, and increasingly turned to regional partners and emerging powers like Russia and China to reduce its dependency on the West. One of the most significant aspects of Iran's economic defiance is its effort to bypass the U.S.-dominated financial system. Iran has sought alternative mechanisms to the SWIFT banking network, traded in non-dollar currencies, and established barter agreements with other sanctioned or sympathetic nations. These steps, while not foolproof, represent a quiet revolution against the global dollar system, a key pillar of American economic dominance. Iran's economic resilience sends a powerful message to other countries that find themselves on the receiving end of Western pressure. It proves that a nation can be sanctioned, isolated, and threatened, yet still maintain sovereignty and operate outside the sphere of Western influence. This sets a dangerous precedent in the eyes of U.S. strategists because it challenges the assumption that economic punishment is a guaranteed path to political submission. Iran has instead turned sanctions into a crucible of national pride and self-reliance. This model of resistance, rooted in ideology, resourcefulness, and alternative alliances, has the potential to inspire other nations questioning the benefits of Western alignment. Iran's ability to withstand economic warfare without surrendering its political independence fundamentally undermines the credibility of U.S. power. And that is perhaps the greatest threat of all, not what Iran is, but what it represents. A nation that refuses to be conquered economically, ideologically, or militarily. In conclusion, the fear the United States harbors toward Iran runs far deeper than headlines or political rhetoric would suggest. It is not merely about nuclear weapons or regional conflicts. It is about a nation that has dared to defy the existing world order on every front. Iran's strategic control over global oil routes, its vast and disciplined network of proxy forces, its refusal to bend under economic pressure, its ideological challenge to Western hegemony, and its quest for technological and military independence all converge into a singular truth. Iran represents a model of resistance that threatens to unravel decades of Western dominance in the Middle East and beyond. While many nations have yielded to external pressure for the sake of survival or convenience, Iran has chosen defiance and sovereignty. Whether one agrees with its methods or not, it has carved a unique path, bold, controversial, and undeniably influential. That path inspires allies, unnerves adversaries, and forces the world to ask hard questions about power, justice, and independence. And that is the hidden truth behind the fear. Thank you for joining me in exploring this complex and critical subject. May we continue to seek understanding in a world too often ruled by illusion.